sorry about that. Okay. Let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Mr. Secretary, would you do the roll call, please?
Yes, Commissioner
Randy, I got
Surratt,
it. Thank you.
Commissioner Stamps,
Here.
Commissioner Brown, here. Commissioner Ralph, here. Commissioner Pinkley, here.
I declare that we do have a quorum and we can continue. Gentlemen, have you had a chance to look over the agenda for today's meeting?
Yes.
Do I have a motion for approval?
I'll make the motion, we approve the agenda as written.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay. I'm sorry about that. All right. We approved the agenda. Okay, the minutes of June 24th meeting.
I'll move we approve the 6:24 regular meeting minutes.
All second.
Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Becky Smith. Okay, well, we'll see if we can get a hold of her and maybe make a presentation later. What we got is a certificate of appreciation. Becky has done a beautiful job in the library up at the country club. And it's, if you haven't been in there, it's worthwhile. She got it organized, beautiful, beautiful job, and she's done it for years without recognition, and I think it's time that we recognize her. Announcements. Do we have any announcements? I don't have anything.
The fireworks on Friday, the 5th of July, we did have our workshop and brought it up. And the whole event up at the barn was just very, very nice. And the fireworks were super. And we owe some appreciation to everybody that was involved in getting that together.
Yes, we do.
And I also would like make a comment. I would like to have on our workshop agenda for the foreclosures next month for our workshop. So I would propose that we discuss that on our workshop.
A work session?
Right.
Okay, we can do that. That's what they're for.
Chairman, I'd like
Yes,
to
sir.
thank everybody that had concern. I had to run out of the meeting last week. Got a call, my wife was having heart issues, and I always appreciate the fire department and first responders, but I took her over to Berryville, and I was there about 3 hours, and we got some issues resolved. But it's just very good to see the concern that people have for you, and your neighbors are watching out for you. So if that ever happens to you, I hope you have the same good luck as I did. Thanks for all your concern.
Okay. The next item on the agenda is hearing public comments. Does anybody want public comments at this time? Ms. Sherman?
Rebecca Sherman. What I find missing from the agenda, and you did not add it to the agenda, is the discussion for hiring a fire chief. And OSHA has out new rules. They're already in effect. So a fire chief would have been able to see these rules and be participating in the public comment that's set up through OSHA, because Arkansas is not a state, does not have a state OSHA plan, so they fall under all the rules. If you read it, you should be worried about all the new used fire trucks you bought, besides everything else that's on there. But you keep missing letting us know where we stand on the, we don't have a lawyer's legal report on the lawsuit that's been filed against HICID. That's me. That's not you. That's all of us. And I don't know where that is. Don't even know who the attorney is. And by the way, don't know who HICID's actual attorney is. And then, Mr. Rich, I do appreciate all that you've done. But his 90 days is up for free rent here. And I'm waiting to see if that's part of your budget items. I'm sorry. That's it.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to comment on this new OSHA proposal that has not been approved. The public hearings just closed about 2 weeks ago. I've read all about the new OSHA proposal that has yet to be approved. So it's a nothing burger at the moment. Until it's approved, there's nothing we can really do about it. But it's getting a lot of pushback from fire departments all over the country. So I don't know that it will be approved as it is proposed. And until it is, I don't think the board can comment on the new regulations.
Thank you, Andy. Any other public comments? Okay, reports? Mr. Rich? Other than road weary?
The water department is working on flushing hydrants and getting flow tests for all that stuff. Besides that, the roads is working on everything. My battery's been dead for a long. Right, yeah, that's better. So, water departments, flushing hydrants, they've got 9 done last week. We, also on the work session, we brought up advertising for a new fire chief, so we'll get that out in the paper and start that process. And Leonard Walton went through his surgery and is doing very well. They didn't have to take near as much as they thought, so that's a good thing. And besides that, everything's running as smooth as we can right now.
At this moment. Okay, very good. Thank you.
Becca Sherman. So what's the status on the backup generator for well number 1?
We've gotten 2 quotes so far. We're still waiting on the 3rd quote. And we'll bring that up for replacement on that.
So I have a question, not being really a water person or an authority of a water. So that generator's already gone.
No, it's still
That's-
sitting up there, but it's unusable.
Okay, so you don't have a backup for well 1. If something should happen, then no well?
We have a portable that we could use up there if we have to, if something comes up.
All right, thank you. Didn't know that.
And the systems are tied together.
Yeah.
That well is not, at one point in time, that was the only well that furnished the water to the island proper. But the systems are all tied together.
No, what? No.
Yeah.
Well 1 is tied to what?
It's tied in a loop now, so that way we can backfeed to that if we have to.
Well, then you need to go back and look because there is past history that says that you could not run that water under that bridge.
We have, because we've had to shut down that well for repairs, and then Dan was able to feed it, that water tower, to supply the island.
Okay.
Okay, new business. Receive and approve the June financials. And I've looked them over somewhat. We got a motion and a second. Comments? I got a comment. I would like to see all the reserve accounts and all these bank accounts that we have and explain to me why they're reserved and what they're for. And we've got money sitting over here in that pocket and some in the back pocket and some in the other front pocket. And it, you know, I think the money's the money. And I'd like to see what they all are and have an explanation of why they're in special reserves and this sort of thing. Because we had special reserves set aside after we sold the tower and also the equipment that we sold and all this stuff. And then we turn around and say, okay, and then we got all this money we spent on the rec center. And it didn't come out of any of those accounts, or I'm assuming it didn't, because we seem to still have them. I would like a better explanation of what those accounts are.
So the end of September, I'm going to plan on, is when we'll start redoing the budget, and Jeffer will be here. And then we can make sure we set it up for her to come in and explain all the accounts. And then, I mean, basically there are reserve savings, and then everything we sell that just goes back into our general, and then helps us out for next year or other expenses that might come up for capital improvements. But as far as the accounts that we have, she could sit down and explain exactly how they work and how we got them set up.
That would be,
Yeah.
I think we'd have a better understanding.
Looking at the report, the ones in red on the, this first report year-to-date, the ones in red are, except for restricted major projects, which is what you're talking about, Larry, the money we put aside from the tower lease and the sale, and we voted to restrict that. But everything else, I think, is required by law. All of these fire boat maintenance, water escrow, restricted fire grant, debt service on the water treatment plant, and the Act 833, I think those are required by law to be held in restricted accounts.
Okay, I would just.
Mr. Chairman, I have another suggestion, and that is at least the front page that's year-to-date and everything. If we just had this up on the screen, I think the public needs to look at this. I'm not sure, is it on the website right now? But I think we get to see it, but there's some questions that might be forthcoming.
That's
There we
not
go. Okay,
the,
yeah, but sometimes we have it up,
and I
sometimes
forget how
not.
she.
But it's a little hard to read. Maybe we could get a bigger font on it, Stephanie. But, hey, does anybody agree with me out there? If you do,
Well,
nod
she
your head.
has them.
Okay.
She's looking for it. That one's not it, no.
Is there any way we could enlarge it for the
Well,
next
let her
month?
find it. Yeah, that's, scroll down just a hair. Yeah, that's the one.
Okay, all right. Especially,
And make it, can you make it
Rich, the
bigger?
reason I would like it up there is you've made, or we haven't approved them yet, but that's today, later in the meeting, I think. But on some of the budget cuts, they affect everybody, and they affect the employees, they affect the public. And then after those were made or are made, then we still have to look at the balances and where we are with a new budget for the rest of the year till December 31. And I think it's just good to see year-to-date, are we up, are we down in different departments? And it would be good to have that up there all the time. So that's my recommendation.
Well, I think, Rich, at the end of the year, if some of the departments are a little under budget, maybe we can clear up this 300,000 if we keep those people from spending spending a lot of money and do the necessities. And so I think at the end of the year, we could possibly be at a break-even basis if we really are careful with our spending. Is that what you agree to?
As of now, I'm hoping to roll over some of our budget for next year.
Yeah.
It's gonna make it better for next year's being more of a balanced budget and maybe get some more capital improvements done. And that's our biggest battle right now is upkeep. I mean, a lot of the stuff has just not been maintained, and it's all like, well, guess what? Now we're gonna break down on you. So once we can get ahead of the game, and by doing this budget, we'll get ahead of the game, move forward, and see where it plays out. I think we're gonna be all right once we get through this year, as long as we get everybody to control their spending for a minimum as we can.
Good.
Well, while we're on the subject, I've asked several times over the last couple of years to have a meeting with the city council, and that hasn't happened. We had one, and it wasn't that beneficial, but I think looking at budgets, we need to know, does the city have any funds forthcoming later, not today, but in the next year or so, that could help us, i.e. the fire department? And we need to get 12 good minds together. We could have it up in the ballroom if there's going to be a lot of people that show up, and I think they would. No, I'm not familiar with the city council's rules because I'm not on the city council, but I think in terms of fire department, there's some, I've been told by people who are in the know that there are some things that could be done to help us with the cost of providing firefighting in Holiday Island. And then we come up to the issue of how long the SID is going to last. And I won't go into detail on that, but you all know what I'm talking about. And that's the AOB and how much we spend each year and how long we could continue to go without any cuts. And I want to congratulate Rich, our district manager, for what he's done over the last month. It took a lot of gumption to do those things, and I know a lot of people are not happy, but if there's anything that the city could do with the SID, that would be great. And we need to talk about it, and if there's nothing, then at the end of the meeting, we'll know there's nothing, but I doubt that's the case. But I would like to see that happen, and I'd like to see it happen early fall while we're preparing budgets. They're preparing budgets in September, October, November. We are. So let's try to get together and make some sense out of it. Thank you.
Thank you. We have a motion for approval of the June financial statements, and we have a second. Any further discussion? All in favor of approving them, signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Okay. We got those approved. We have some in-house work that we need to clean up. A resolution 2024 R4 for Rich as a trustee over the 457 plan. That's the retirement plan and that kind of stuff.
Okay.
Do I hear a motion to approve
Do we need
that
two
resolution?
readings on this?
I'm sorry?
Do we need two readings? It's not an amendment, is it an amendment?
No, it's a resolution.
A new resolution? Then don't we require two readings?
No, the regulation would be.
Okay,
Resolution just one.
got it, thank you.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, I just want to make sure we're on the right page.
Thank you very much. That was a good point. Thank you very much.
We brought it up in the work session too.
Okay. Do I have a motion for approval?
I move that we approve the resolution to appoint Rich Figgins as trustee for the 457 plan.
Thank you.
I'll second it.
Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Do we-
Motion carried. And
Aye.
sign that for you.
I
The
had a
next item-
question on it, but.
You have a
I mean,
question?
and I'm not asking to redo it. When Commissioner Presley, or District Manager Presley left, we were kind of left in the lurch for a little bit because he was the only signature. I noticed this says to take Larry off. but there's no harm to having more than one signer. As it is fine, and we can address it as it comes. But I think something that we probably ought to consider in the future is having a second signer as a trustee. But for right now, and from what I learned at that time, they are going to charge us to rewrite the resolution. But if we choose to add a name, like when we added Larry, we did that at no fee. So I just wanted to mention the having a second signer on it, just as backup, basically. Carrie is the administrator, so she handles all of the day-to-day business and all of that. But I just wanted to bring up that point.
Thank you very much. Good point.
Mr. Chairman, I also would want to know, the 457 plan is a retirement plan for 57 employees, right? And I'm wondering, I was under different pension plans and so forth, but and Rich, since you've been here, since you're under that plan, are you pleased with the results, or do we have an idea of how things are going in that plan? In other words, the return on, for the employees?
To be honest with you, I have not even looked at that plan. I have not even had time.
Yeah,
Mine started, haven't even looked at it.
okay. And I don't want to change anything, but as long as everybody's happy, I know 2 people that have retired and they feel real good about where they are, what their retirement date from that plan. But I was just wondering, there's competition in every field.
Oh, yeah.
And if someone could do more and get a better retirement income for our employees, I would be all for that. But if it's not broken, don't fix it, so I think we're okay.
Well, this is John Hancock, so I assume they have a pretty good reputation.
Okay.
Did we vote?
No, we haven't approved it yet. We've got a motion, a second, to approve Rich becoming the administrator, whatever, of the trustee over the 457 plan. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, carried. Now we have another resolution. This was 2024 R5, creating a bank account, Holiday Island Suburban Improvement District, 2008 wastewater treatment plant. I guess I don't understand what we're doing there.
So we talked about this in the work session. So we're getting close to that project being complete. So we want to open a separate banking account, so that way we get it down to the very last penny. So that way we don't have to turn around and we collect too much, and we have to turn around and cut everybody in the island, or all the property owners, a 7-cent check. So by putting it in its own little account, that way we can monitor it better, and when it's time to pay it off, we are right down to the exact penny of write-off, and that way we can deal with that.
That sounds.
So it's
sounds like
just,
a good
it's just a
So-
better way to keep track of how.
So we don't
bring money.
over-collect or
Yeah.
under-collect.
It's just a better way of keeping track of exactly how much we bring.
I make a motion, we approve that.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay. Any further discussion?
Cornerstone, with everything else, I assume.
All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion approved. Okay, the UV project, contract with ESI. I see we have their background information, but do we have the contract?
This is their background, and as soon as we vote for them, then we'll sign the contract and get going on the UV protection project.
Yes.
This is the first I've seen of it today. It's a really nice glossy 50, 60-page. Most of it is projects that ESI has had around the state and the region. To be honest with you, I've been a little disappointed in our representation by ESI on different things. Well 5 being one of them. That was delayed, and then when Rich came on board, he and Dan got together and we're looking at a really different project, like $1 million less than what it was scheduled to be.
This firm, we've actually had to be on top of them a little bit to get stuff done, and we are still on top of them. They're the only ones that actually presented to us.
Okay.
So we will make them work, and we will make sure that we keep them under thumb to perform. It's gonna really fall on me, making sure I'm there checking on them, making sure everything's getting done.
Okay.
And as long as me and Dan both do that, and even all the water department,
Okay.
I mean,
Thank you.
we're gonna get it done.
All right. I appreciate it.
It's a little late to start over anyway.
And they're not easy to get a hold of. I know that the short period of time that I was here, I called them 4 times and I never got a hold of the guy, our deal, but he would talk to Dan, but he wouldn't talk to me. But anyway, every time I called, his father was in the hospital or something, and it was an emergency over there, but it wasn't an emergency to talk to me. If you think that I'm pleased with ESI, I am not. But I have a son that's in the construction business in Fayetteville, and I talked with him about it. He said, Dad, they are probably the best. And he said, but what you're used to, you can't get up here anymore. So anyway,
Well,
be that as it
yeah,
may.
that's good to hear.
One other comment, Rich. When we get the price that they're going to charge for their engineering services, that was one of the concerns I had over the last several years, where the price was never included, or we never saw how much they were charging, and you can't run a big company like this without charging the customer. And it was supposed to be, well, we're going to get a grant, and when we get the grant, we'll take our fee out of that. That's not the way that I would think that you would run an engineering business. So I want to know what the cost is exactly, no overcharge, no overruns, and then have them do a good job, like Larry just said, his son said. And I would appreciate that. But we got to run this like a business, like they run theirs like a business. And I know you're going to do that.
Okay. All right. Off
So
your
what
schedule.
are we going to approve the contract? Is that where we are?
Uh,
So do we have a motion on that?
Well, now, we haven't seen the contract. Can we approve it without?
This is just to approve that we're going to use
ESI.
ESI as
Yeah,
our firm.
okay. That's what we're approving at this point in time.
That way we can move forward with them getting the contract all drawn up and taken care of.
That's very good.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we contract with ESI for the installation of the UV system.
Thank you. Do I hear a second on that motion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion passed. Okay. Amending the 2024 budget. I think we still have a lot of discussion on that, do we not? Or is it pretty well wrapped up?
As of last Monday with our discussion with everything, I mean, this is gonna come down to all of you feeling comfortable moving forward with what we revised and cut. As long as everybody's comfortable with what we've drawn up and feel like we can move forward with this revised budget, I'd say we're good. If any of you have any questions or do not feel comfortable with this or want to change anything, it's pretty much speak now or forever hold your peace.
Yes.
I was pleased with the way the budget looked, with one
It-
minor exception. I didn't see any problems with what you had done on that.
It's scrubbed out pretty good.
I'll make a motion that we go ahead and approve this, the budget,
Okay,
as we have it.
I would second that motion.
okay. Any further discussion?
Mr. Chairman, Rich, I'd like to see, I really appreciated when Jennifer was here a month or so ago, and I know she lives in Texarkana, it's a long way away. Just about have to stay overnight and a couple of nights to get up here. But why couldn't we have a speaker like we've had before, right in the middle of the room? She could be in her office in Texarkana, and she could be answering some of these questions. We had a bookkeeper accountant here for many, many years, and she would come into the meeting, go up to the podium and answer questions. And I think what she was so direct and so on target when I asked her the questions about the redoing the budget, and you agreed and you went forward and got it done. But I think there's sometimes when she could clarify and qualify some of the directions we're going on each department or whatever, and she wouldn't have to be here, she could just be on the speakerphone. And so if we can land a man on the moon and get him back, we can talk to Texarkana, right?
I'm not sure we need her every time.
Not every time, no.
No.
I think we do need her when we're discussing budgets, though.
No, and she was here for that discussion.
Yeah, and when we, like, right now, we do need to get one of the speaker systems. That way we can dial her up, and I can give her a heads up that we're going to need her expertise on this. And all right, last Monday, she was trying to catch up with me and everything. And it's not a problem. I mean, we'll get one of them little speaker things there, and we can hook it up to the speaker system.
Yeah.
And that way, moving forward, we can call her, and she can give us her explanation on stuff.
Like the chair just brought up some of the funds we have. I'm confused about them, and he brought up a good question. And where are they? What are they for? Are they going to be there forever? Are we going to spend them on some things? Do we need to renew some of these CDs or put them to work in other areas? Or are there regulations that we have to follow that I'm not familiar with, but I like that idea.
And she sent this, and Carrie brought this into me, and this is the explanation of everything. So that way you guys can look through this whenever, and then we can discuss it later.
Oh, okay, cool.
Okay, we'll look that over. We have a motion to approve and a second to approve the 2024 budget. Is there any public discussion?
Al Selleck, 22 Buckskin Lane. Pretty much the same questions I had last month, because we're still looking, unless I'm reading something correct, this looks like a negative budget. Like, as Jennifer mentioned, our accountant, that you shouldn't have a negative budget, it's going to affect your bond rating. I understood that we're supposed to send a positive budget, or at least an equal budget, into the county, the county clerks. I know we have to have 35% in reserves, but I also agree with Larry that there's too many little pockets. You still, you've got the tower money. You check with Jennifer and see if you get that tower money out. You're saving it for a major project. I would say having a $300,000 minus budget is a major project. When people are talking about, we might have to do a special assessment, each homeowner would have to pay so much. Good or bad idea, the idea's been thrown out, and you're sitting on the money from the tower that you sold. You're going to go ahead next year and work to have it, budget. I realize that Rich got thrown in the middle of this. As Jennifer said, she was forced by her employer to turn in a negative budget. But it's time to correct that. There are too many pockets. There's also, as Jennifer mentioned in one of the meetings, she's been cleaning up a lot of the miscellaneous accounts, where several different things were getting pulled out of one pocket, but nobody knows what it was. And also, so we voted on this budget, the $800,000 negative budget. Yeah, it was voted on. Since then, we have a new district manager We have 2 new members. So I would say a more proper term might be that the previous board, with a lame duck district manager, pardon the analogy, but voted a $800,000 negative budget, and you're sitting on money. You've done a good job of trimming it, trimmed over half out. But you're sitting on money in reserves that does not necessarily have to be in reserves. Jennifer knows the total. I know some time back, somebody said, oh, we got all this money in reserves, and Jennifer right away said, no, you really don't, because this has to go here and this has to go there. So, yeah, it's a good trim job. Admire what, Rich has been able to do with it, but you still got a negative budget, and you should not have a negative budget between bond ratings and, it's my understanding that you're supposed to file, we're not a city, we don't have to file with the state, but we're supposed to file with the county where our city is incorporated. Thank you.
Thank you. I might add that the deficit that we're showing is after all the operations of the amenities and administration and what have you. That money is made up by income and other sources, such as the assessment or whatever, and that's what it's supposed to be to get it down to a zero budget. Although that's not shown because we're showing the budget for each department, and it's just, well, it's an accounting function. By the time you get through, that's what shakes out after when everything is done. You take in so much money on the golf course and you pay out so much money, and you've got a negative balance or you've got a positive balance. Unfortunately, most golf courses, it's a negative balance. And that's true with all of the recreational amenities that we operate. And when you get through, you've got that total number. Well, that total number is made up some other way. And so you actually have a zero budget because, there's losses there, and that has to be made up some other way. So the bottom line is the bottom line, and that has to be made up some other way, and it is made up another way because we're still functioning. And so...
Mr. Chairman, one of the things, Al, thank you for those comments. We've been dealing with years and years and years with lots that are in repossession, lots that can't be sold, lots that are going to the Commission of State Land. And there's hundreds of them, hundreds. And that creates a budget. It could be a deficit, but we're not getting the money in from those. We're not getting any AOB from that, any assessment. All these lots out here. And so several people in the audience here are working on it. Rich is working on it. We've got commissioners who are trying to get some. Former district manager Bruce Larson has got some good ideas. I would say that before the end of the year, and when we get an attorney on board that can work with us on that, we could solve some of these problems, and it wouldn't be a deficit. Now, are we ever going to clear up all the land and all the lots and all the repossessions and so forth? Probably not, but we can get a lot better, and we can get a lot better on it. And I'm looking at Linda. I know you've commented before, and when you were on the board, many of us were trying to figure out how this could be. Larry was the first district manager. He's been through this a lot. He knows about it. He's concerned, I think, about it. But what he just said was true on the day-to-day operating budget with the cuts that the general district manager has made. And they were painful, no doubt about it. I've heard a lot about them. We've got people in the audience today that are concerned about it, but they needed to be done. And so anyway, I would say that, Al, we're working on it, and it's not going to be just forgotten about. And SID is a difficult budget. It's even more difficult, I think, than city council. And it's different than some company out here in Berryville. But that's why you elected us, and we're going to try to work on it and cure it. I don't think it'll be done immediately, but there are ways that we can do a better job maybe. And it was approved, and it's been approved for year after year after year. This is the first year that it's down this 300,000.
Okay.
I would like to make one comment also.
Okay.
And I said it multiple times when I voted for this budget. To be honest, I wasn't aware of the number completely, and I'll take that as chair. That's my fault. I should have known better. However, I have said a number of times, a budget is a project. This is projected revenue versus projected expenses. There isn't a line in the budget that says transfer from the money market account to even it out. We have $1.8 million in cash available, including the restricted fund. We opted to restrict that funds. If we want to leave it as a line item in restricted for major projects, I think, if the board has an objection, we haven't talked about that. But the point is, we had budget busting last year with all the fire equipment we had to purchase. We did all of the new construction out of cash because we had such a big balance built up over COVID. We spent money. We're not elected to sit on the the levy money. We're elected to do things for the community, and we have done that. We still have money in the bank. We have revenue projections coming up, and I guess I'm trying to reassure everybody that we're not going bankrupt. We have a handle on our finances, and that's my comment on the whole thing.
Barb?
Barb Kuhn, 62 Holiday Island Drive. My question is this. We have reserves. Every year we put money into reserves from the AOBs, and those are to be used for current year expenses from prior year money. There is no reason we shouldn't show that on our balance sheets, on our financials, that you are moving and using the money we reserved for current year expenses. That would show that you're not out of balance and not negative. If you show the money moving from the reserve accounts into your budget, your current year budget, that negative number goes away. That was my point. So why don't we do that?
Well, budgets are one thing, and cash balances, financials are another. I think we're kind of conflating the two things.
Okay,
Is that right?
then we need to show the community that you're not in a negative stance.
Well,
That's our financials.
The negative in the budget will be made up through those reserve accounts, through whatever it needs to be. But the budget shows the operation of that department. And that department, they all come down for a grand total. And like,
But doesn't your budget show revenue versus expenses?
yes, it does.
So I consider moving money from a reserve fund to the current year a revenue item, and therefore should be shown on your budget.
It's bookkeeping wise,
Yeah.
it's already been shown. You got the money in, there's a debit, and
Yeah.
then there's a credit
I
for
gotcha.
that. So it's all there. It's cash in hand. You don't make whenever you spend the money out of that particular account, that goes against that account.
Okay.
And that should be,
I agree with you there,
yeah.
Larry. The thing of it is, the community is in uproar now because we've made some very deep cuts in several areas where I think we have the money that we didn't have to cut that budget.
well,
And we need to show the people that.
That's what I tried to do.
much of the budget was fluff, and it needed to be cut. We need to come Jesus meeting, just to say, okay, we're not going to turn you loose with Christmas list, and give you money for
Okay,
it.
I'm with you on that, I'm with you on that. We shouldn't be spending it where we
Yeah.
don't need to. But I think we cut a lot of needed expenses as well.
Well, we've got a lot of needed things that need to be done.
Yeah.
Well, number 5, the UV at the treatment plant, those things are required. We have no choice in that.
Yeah.
We basically didn't have much of a choice in the fire equipment that we bought.
Yeah,
We had, improvements had to be made there.
Yeah.
So, but we're still solvent.
Yeah.
We're still sound.
Yeah,
Somehow get that out to the public.
Okay,
well, I tried.
thank you.
Can I make a comment real quick?
Yes,
That's the other thing, is the community should not be in an uproar over this. They should be ecstatic over this. We are still running a very fine residential area. I mean, we're running great. The fire department is under the circumstances of what they need to do now to make it work, and they will make it work. As a community, we will make this work. Everybody should be ecstatic. That's why you have the variance line, because the variance is what goes out, what comes in at the end of the year, then you make it balanced. That's why we have the variance line, because it changes, things come up. And the variance line is what you're gonna go off of, and then at the end of the year, we will transfer to make everything balanced. But at least now we can make everything balanced, because if you're looking at a $1.7 million deficit, if you don't have that much money in reserves or anything else, how are you gonna make it work? Now, with the way we're working, we can make it work and balanced, and then we'll move forward from there on for 2025's budget.
Ms.
Linda
Lynn.
Graves, 29 Table Rock Drive, and I want to make a comment about basically what Barb was saying. And I sent Rich a note last week. I don't know if you saw my last note, but there is a way to reflect on the budget sheet that you are transferring, you intend to transfer cash money in from some account. It has been done, it was done the last time in 2021 or 2020. And on every budget, generally, there was at least a transfer, I mean, even prior to that, there was at least a transfer in of the equipment reserve fund money to cover equipment purchases. That is a reserve account, just like you were talking, what are the reserve accounts? That is a reserve account. It has to be funded with a certain amount of money at the beginning of the year in order, and it's meant to pay for whatever equipment purchases you're going to buy. And you decide on the amount that you want to put in there. At the beginning of the year, the money comes from the depreciation that you take on the equipment every year. And even another word about those reserve accounts, there's a section in the HICID regulations that describe all of the reserve, or at least many of those reserve accounts and what they were meant for, the ones that were set up by previous boards via resolutions or regulations, actually, because it went into the regulations section. But right now, I mean, you still can't turn this budget in. It says you have a nearly $400,000 deficit. You cannot have a deficit budget. And there's an easy way to do it. If you just go back and look at those previous budgets that were done by HICID, and they're filed on the website, actually. They're under, 2019 budget or 2020 budget or 2021 budget. You can see how they represented a transfer in from a reserve or a cash account to wipe out any level of deficit because you knew you had money in the bank to pay for it. And that's all I need to say.
thank you. And
Yeah, that's the variance.
I agree. All right.
Rebecca Sherman, following Barb Kuhn and Linda Graves' comments, you still didn't turn into the county for 2023 a positive end of the year amount. So now you've rolled that problem over and you're trying to adjust the fact that you did a negative 2024 budget. So you still have negative numbers before 2024, plus now what you're trying to bring down, and you're still at a really big number. And Jennifer was here, and she said, how am I going to say this? And that's what she was talking about. She was trying to tell everybody, you don't turn this kind of stuff in. And you turned in 2 years worth of this stuff. So I appreciate what these ladies said about 2024, but you still got 2023 hanging on you too.
That will be recorded with the county after the audit is completed. The audit has not been completed on 2023. It's scheduled for possibly sometime this next month, hopefully. So therefore, after the audit, we do not turn in interim figures and this kind of stuff to the county. We will turn in the audited figures because that is the fact.
Okay, but what I'm referring to is what you are required to turn in at the end of the year, your 2023 ending year amount.
Mhm.
And on file with the county is the 2022 audit. That's on track. And the audit that you're referring to is the upcoming 2023 audit, but it doesn't sync with what is already turned in as your 2023 year ending amount. And now you've compounded that negative number with this additional negative 2024 budget.
Projection. Budgets are
Projected
projections.
budget.
They're not actual.
Okay, the 2023 one was not projected. That's end of the year,
Well,
period.
the 2023 budget was projected, okay?
I'm not talking about budget when I'm speaking of 2023. It's over.
Yeah.
That's end of
No,
the.
it's not over because the audit is not completed yet. At that point in time, it will be turned into the county.
That's not the way you've done it in the past. Let me put it that way. Because I have
about that.
those from the county, and I see how they sync up. You're holding one back.
Okay. We have a motion to approve the amended budget, or to amend the budget. We have a second on that. We have had a public discussion, and we've had other discussions. Okay, so therefore, are we ready to vote?
Yes.
Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. Okay. Is there any additional public comments that need to be made in this meeting? Commissioners' comments?
Chairman, I have one, and I was in education for many years, taught at the college level and the school level, superintendents and so forth, so I know that field, but I'm not an accountant. I don't know a whole lot about audits. One of the things I wanted to comment, though, when Ms. Sherman was talking, is that our auditors have been very, very